Hello guys, this is Gopi back with another video. In this video we are going to discuss about one of the important concept in .NET 6, which is nothing but dependency injection. So let's get started with what is dependency injection, then we'll proceed one by one. So first and foremost, dependency injection is nothing but a design pattern. If suppose you don't know what is design patterns are nothing but proven solution to the problems that we face in the design level of the application. So that's what the design patterns are. Examples, we have singleton design pattern, which makes sure that always we'll be having only one instance of the class throughout the application lifecycle. Likewise, we have abstract factory, builder, and many different things are there. Dependency injection is also one of that design pattern. Now I hope you know what is design pattern. Now we are going to start with the dependency injection. So what is dependency injection? As I already explained, dependency injection is nothing but a design pattern. This design pattern is a technique that uses in the software development to create loosely coupled software or also loosely coupled application. So what is mean by loosely coupled? If you have an object, that object depends on another object, that's nothing but tightly coupled. So the opposite of that is nothing but the loosely coupled thing. We just wanted to create application which is so loosely coupled. So if I wanted to change anything, I just have to do that change with a minimalistic change. That's what we call it as a loosely coupled. It should not have any tightly coupled dependency between two different objects, and that can be overcome using this dependency injection. There are many different ways to achieve this dependency injection, like a constructor injection and then property injection. Constructor injection is the most widely used way, and I'm going to demonstrate it in the same way only. Since we are learning about .NET 6, .NET 6 framework comes inbuilt with the dependency injection technique. So we don't have to do much for implementation and those related stuff. It comes by default. So what it actually does is that dependency injection needs a dependency container. So what is mean by container? I haven't discussed. Container is nothing but a place which actually takes care of object creation and maintaining the object. That's what the container does. Now, how come container knows which object needs to be created, where it is supposed to get injected? And that is what we will be doing some code related work. So we will be registering whatever the services that I wanted to create object for, and I will be doing constructor level injection whenever I need those services to be passed as a parameter. That's what this dependency injection does is. Now this dependency injection, one of the most important advantage is that it actually promotes the single responsibility principle, which is nothing but the kind of fundamental to the object oriented things. If suppose you are not aware of a single responsibility principles implements that one class should have only one responsibility. So that is what SRP is all about. Now I hope that we have discussed a lot within this what is dependency injection and how to achieve that. Now we have to do something programmatically. To do so, here in the API project, I am going to create one service which can be the first thing is nothing but the interface, and then I'll be doing some implementation on that interface. Now and then I have to register that interface in the .NET container. Then I can use it anywhere where I wanted to use that. So first and foremost, let me create an interface by right click the API project, go to add, go to new item. You can select the interface and you can name it out. This is my first service, right? Let me call it as first service. Just for sake of example, you should not follow this kind of naming convention in your project. So here you can see that the interface is created. Its interface name is first service. I am going to have only one content here. Let's say example, it going to return me I will be having void, so get name. So get name, so whatever name that I am passing it here, he just return me with a greetings. That's what the method going to does. Now I have the interface, right? Where should I supposed to inject it? I mean, we are not going to inject this. We wanted to implement this interface. For that, I need to create a class. So let me right click that API, go to add, go to class. Let me create one. So what I am going to do is, let's give some name. I can just say it as first service implementation. So this is the first service implementation where I need to inherit my service. So first service. Always keep that in mind. Whenever you create any interface, try to keep the name as I first interface. That's the common naming convention just have to follow. I missed it, so let me do that. So we are done with that. Now we have to implement that interface method, right? That we have done here. Let me remove this. We don't need that, by the way. I'm going to get the name. Let me return. I can use, okay, welcome and then the name. Let me change this return type. Method is done and I'm going to do the change here and this implementation. So now we are done with the service part. We yet to register this. So where should I register here? And that's what the problem arises. So let's go to the program.cs file. Here only we need to register the service. So to register the service, you need to have the configure service, and since we are following the latest version of code, if you are creating any older version where you will be having startup.cs, in that startup.cs you have to register. First what I do is builder.services. Here only you have to do the service registration. So let me add 3 different methods. One is add scoped, add transient, and then the add singleton. That's up to you. As of now, I am going to use add scoped. We will be discussing about this add scope, add event, and all other stuff in our upcoming video. As of now, just implement as it is. Let me remove this. So here I am going to register the service, and this service is implemented in the implementation class, which is nothing but first service implementation. So registering of my service is done with the application. What is meant by add scoped? We will discuss that in our upcoming video. Now we are done with this. Let me create one more class. So let's say call it as I can just say class. Remove this. I'm just saying learning di is the class. So this is a class, right, where I'm going to inject my service as a dependency. First and foremost, I need to create one private variable. It is always good to go for private read only, so that we always make sure that the object is initialized within this constructor itself. What is the type? So first service, and now this is nothing but my variable just I created. Now in this constructor, I am going to inject the dependency. So let me copy this as it is, because that's how it should be. Copy. We are injecting it. Now I'll be just having this equal to first service. That's all. It is a private variable, so it is a kind of a common naming convention to have underscore before that. Now we created one interface, and that interface get implemented to do some logic here, and that class get added. So whatever the interface that I have created here, that get injected here. So this is nothing but a class which has dependency with the service first service. Now what we can do is, by using this object, I can able to invoke any method. So what I do is, let me create one more public method here. Public void. It should return something because the method actually returns it. So string get greeting message. You can pass name and then return your underscore first service dot. You will be able to get the get name method, which is supposed to get the name that I am about to pass. So we are done with this implementation. We have to invoke this, right, this method. To do so, let me get into the controller that I created, which is nothing but index controller. Here in this method, you can take any method, that's up to you, shouldn't be an issue. In this method, I'm going to get the name. Here this is going to be the ID, right? What I do is, let me change this to name so that it can accept name. String name. Here I have to create object for the class learning di. Okay, di equal to new learning di dot. So now in this area we have to pass the object of the service. We could not create any object and pass it in the constructor parameter because that task has been given to the dependency injection container. We have service collection class. So what I do is, let me create a variable. Let's say var obj equal to new service collection, and this service collection can be added with the scope, okay, only for this. So what I could example of first service comma first service implementation. So the object get created for this, and that needs to get injected into the build service. So I can able to provide it here. We are done with the scope. Now I have the obj variable, which kind of a container which create the object is created and that gets stored in that. I can use it. Obj dot, I can able to get the service object by telling get service of a type I first service, and that's how it should have to be. Now we have passed the object to the constructor. Now through the constructor I could able to get the greeting message method, and that parameter I am passing my name, or sorry whatever the name that I got in the request. Now I don't need this, I can directly return it. That's it. So that's all about the implementation. Let me repeat it. We created one interface and I created one more class for that implementation, the interface implementation, and then created one class to demonstrate the constructor level dependency injection, how we do that. So far we haven't created any object. To achieve that object, I have to add that in the service collection. So that also been done here. Now we can able to build the project by pressing Ctrl+Shift+B, which is supposed to get succeeded without having any issue. Once the build is done, I will be executing this project and see how it actually behave. You can see that build is succeeded. Now I can execute this program by clicking on this API. That's nothing but the run button. So here you can see that Swagger UI is up. I can go to this endpoint and I can give any name. So let me first try with my name and then click on this execute button. So here you can say I'm getting a welcome Gopi as we expected, because that's how we supposed to get. Let me have one more testing with another name, and you can see that that is also works fine. Now if you carefully look at this video, you might notice that I have registered the service in two different places. One is at this controller itself, this controller method itself, and another one is nothing but in the program.cs file. Do we really need both the place for the registration? No, we don't need that. Either one place is enough for the registration purpose. Whenever you are working with API related project, we usually register all the services in this startup.cs file itself, or else program.cs file in the latest version. I already mentioned that startup.cs file is a file that present in the older version of that .NET Core versions like 3.15. Since we are using 6th version, this one line is enough in the program.cs file itself. Then what is the purpose of registering in both the places and demonstrating the example? This is to let you know that these are all the ways that we can register the service. Now which way should I follow? If you are working with API project, you have to do that in the program.cs file, as I already mentioned. If suppose apart from API project, if you are doing any kind of a C# application development like console application, Windows Form application, then you can go for the controller level of registration itself. That's enough. I hope this clarifies the entire flow. Let's meet you in the next video. Till then, bye, take care.